Welcome to Stochastic NBA live before lock for Saturday night NBA. We're going to go over the DraftKings slate. The FanDuel slate has already locked, so I think we're just talking about DraftKings on this one. I'm your host, Neil Orfield. You can find me on Twitter at PlayerQDFS. I'm here with EMac, our old pal. You can find him on Twitter at EMac DFS. And this show is sponsored by Vivid Picks. We also have Jacob Roach producing. I don't think I know Jacob's Twitter. I usually tell the Twitter of the producer. I'll have to ask Jacob after the fact, unless he wants to jump on. But Vivid Picks is the sponsor of this show. We'll talk about Vivid Picks a little bit more later on. It's similar to other parlay pick'em sites where you choose over or under different stats. The difference with Vivid Picks is you can get a $300 first deposit match bonus right now. You probably already haven't taken advantage of it. So right now is a great time to take a look at Vivid Picks if you haven't already done so, because you can get your first deposit again matched up to $300. On top of that, your first play on Vivid Picks is insured up to $25. You're going to get $25 back if you lose your first Vivid Picks play. So that's a fantastic deal. And of course, if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. You must be 21 plus to play in most places. EMac, how we doing? How we doing tonight?
Doing good. It sounds like playing a $25 card is kind of a must for your first one there on Vivid, since you get that back in case you lose. So I would go that route.
It would be a mistake, in my opinion, to not play at least $25, because you're going to be get your money back if you lose up to that $25 amount. All right, we're going to start here with my team, EMac, and I love to see that Zion is out, CJ McCollum is out. Great spot here for my Timberwolves against the New Orleans Pelicans. Who do you want to talk about first, Timberwolves or Pelicans?
Let's start with the visiting team. So also no Grand Theft Alvarado. He was listed as questionable. He's getting closer to a return. He has yet to play this season. We talked about that with Adam on the earlier show today, that sometimes players will get listed as, it'll be an improvement, right? It's just kind of the signal that they're not that far off. They showed him going forward on a baseline drive, not about 3/4 speed, but no lateral movement, no side-to-side movement, which is going to be crucial for him as a guard. Yeah. So that could be what's slowing him down a little bit. But let's talk here on the Minnesota side. So, wow, their defense has been pretty good this year, Neil. Some would say almost suffocating. That's not elite, not fun to take players against them by any stretch. Was that a surprise for you, or is it because you're watching them more closely? Last year they weren't as good. Is this just the culmination of Rudy Gobert, everybody's favorite choke hold artist or recipient?
Recipient, yeah. I think Gobert is part of it. Jaden McDaniels is just a phenomenal defender. Ant is a great defender. I think Cat has been less of a negative this year than he has been in the past. So I think it's a combo. Mike Conley also there, I think, is a great floor leader. So maybe he's helping a little bit on the defensive end. But yeah, I think it's a combination of things, just having the whole team healthy. And honestly, I think that Jaden McDaniels is one of the best wing defenders in the NBA. I think Ant is actually pretty undefeated, pretty underrated in that respect as well. So I think just having those two suffocating wing defenders and then Rudy Gobert behind them, I think, Cat, Conley are fine. But yeah, I think it is a little bit of a surprise to me, just because they, we're only a couple of years removed from the Timberwolves being like one of the worst defenses in the league. So pretty exciting to see them actually playing some defense this year.
Yeah, that's actually a big change. And they are first right now. They're allowing 105.7 points per 100 possessions, which is really, really good. So I want to point that out, just because sometimes we lose sight of teams that make dynamic changes like that in their results. So for Minnesota, this is an island game. No games yesterday, no games tomorrow. For New Orleans, Neil mentioned McCollum's out, Alvarado's out, Zion is out. It's a back-to-back for them. Minnesota played New Orleans played on Tuesday. Last night, they play tonight, and then they play again on Monday. Last night we saw Brandon Ingram get 38 minutes. Herbert Jones got 37, Jonas Valanciunas 34, Dyson Daniels 33, Zion 32.6. I kind of thought Zion would play tonight. I guess not, since he has been ruled out. So that's going to maneuver things around just a little bit. That will, of course, give even more responsibilities to Brandon Ingram and Joval than they already have. Now they're going to be getting it from the front court, whereas they were kind of the primary and tertiary scorer. They're sort of moving. I guess we moved Joval into technically the secondary scorer tonight, depending on how that plays out with Gobert and why am I blanking on
Cat?
the Cat, Karl Anthony Towns as the front court. So that'll be kind of fun to see. We had looked at Alvarado as kind of being our early value. I think you can look to some of the wing players here, but with CJ McCollum being out for so long now already, with recovering from that collapsed lung, you're seeing Daniels and etc. at okay price, neutral prices is what I would call them right now. If they get in your lineups, no big deal. We're not chasing after them like we were a few games ago. So this game, 219 implied point total here, second lowest of the 5 that we have. So we'll be picking our spots. The other thing that was interesting, Neil, is earlier today, Minnesota had 6 of the top 9 most popular players
Really?
in our player pools. Yes. And so I need to pull up our current stuff and see where they stand now. But that was one thing that we had talked about a little bit on the show, because people were saying, well, how many is too many? And kind of the number was the majority of lineups were getting 2 to 3. About 10 or 15% of the lineups were getting 4. So you kind of want to see when you're looking at teams like that, because one, this is a good environment for them. 2, New Orleans, not a good defense, definitely plays a little bit faster than what Minnesota does. It makes all of them, the Minnesota people who are appropriately priced, look just a little bit better, and that gets them picked up by the optimizers. So that was a bit of a surprise here, but that is something, of course, that we have is the ownership projections here. And some of our other stuff. So let's take a quick peek there to see if I'm missing on anything. Because even with Zion out, it doesn't make me rush to anybody on Minnesota. We are now seeing some significant movement. Najee Marshall is currently checking in at 42% on DraftKings. He is the most popular player that we have identified. He is second on FanDuel behind only Zach Collins. And then you have Brandon Ingram has moved up to 3rd. And then you've got Towns is 5th. Conley is 7th. Daniels 8th. Rudy Gobert 9. So you're kind of, and then skip a couple spots. And then you've got 4 more from this game that are 15% or higher. So this game is well represented. The only slight concern that we have, of course, is what if this becomes a lopsided loss in Minnesota's favor? They may empty the bench, but they are on the road. And even with Zion being ruled out, there was probably a smidge baked in for him being there. But the point total, or the expected win points, went from 5.5 to 7.5 for Minnesota. So that's not egregious at all. And even a more shorthanded New Orleans team could very well hang tough into the 4th quarter, which is really what we need to see to at least be mostly happy with the Minnesota folks. As a Minnesota fan, how do you feel about the blowout potential? Are you doom and gloom like Laffy, where nothing good can ever happen for his team, and then when it does, he says, "I told you so" the whole way? Or are you a realist?
I'm a realist. I like the Timberwolves odds here. I think the Timberwolves are a really strong team this year. I'm hopeful at the very least. Like, I'm not expecting them to win the championship this year, but I could see them being top 3 in the West going into the playoffs. So yeah, I'm not too worried about the blowout here. It's only a 7-point spread. Like, it's not like a guaranteed kind of blowout spot. The fact that it's in New Orleans helps a little bit. I saw somebody in chat just brought up who was it? Jordan Hawkins, who we have. The reason that he's not being talked about is he's 5,800. We haven't projected for just under 24 fantasy points in 27 minutes. I know we had a blow up game just a couple of games ago, but he's only played the past few 26 minutes in the most recent game. In that game that he did blow up, he played 33 minutes, put up 39.5 fantasy points. But in general, he is not the best point per dollar scorer on the slate. I guess he had a few games ago did put up 49 fantasy points. So I guess he's shown the upside to spike there. Do you have any interest there at a $5,800 Jordan Hawkins EMac?
I'm going to start and we probably will get one more news update here at 6:30. Then I'll start crunching lineups and just see where everything kind of plays. No, at this point, Adam had some good points today. We both love Giannis. We both love Doncic. they're at apex salaries right now. I mean, Doncic is at like 12-2 and 11-9, if I remember correctly, on DraftKings and FanDuel. That's a function of the price making it really tough to get there. That's the same thing with Hawkins, 5,800. When you've got a bunch of other people on Memphis, we'll talk about some of the people on the Spurs, even some of the people on Minnesota. It's just making it harder to get there. Now, when you look at this, we're looking at fractions of a point per minute, right? So a few extra turnovers and some missed shots versus somebody getting a couple steals, a few balls bounced their way, both for rebounds and going into the bucket. And all of a sudden you're looking at a 14 fantasy point spread between these two people. And yes, we would have preferred to have Hawkins in that case, right? If he's the one that has that benefit. But when we're looking at the median projections, it's just tougher to get there. That's why when we do, and I said I wasn't going to take too long, Neil, and here I am. We like to do the randomness, right? To get the range of outcomes when you're trying to figure out what you're doing. And that's what our simulations are doing. That's what our lineup generators doing. That's what the boom bust tool is kind of telling you what to do. And Hawkins just doesn't quite get up to that differentiating score at 5,800. It makes it really tough. He kind of needs to get up to about 35 fantasy points to really move the needle. And that would be probably a 90th percentile outcome for him, even though we just saw him clear 40 fantasy points.
So just looking at the boom bust tool, because I think the boom bust tool is, you're kind of referring to, you want to know the full range of outcomes. That's why we use the sims. That's why we use these advanced tools. Just looking at, we do have Jordan Hawkins at 2.2% ownership, 3.6% chance to be an optimal. So like, if you want to take the shot there, it's not going to, in those scenarios when he's not optimal, when he's not like, he has a really low floor. So pretty wide range of outcomes. As EMac said, it's probably a 90th percentile outcome for him to get there. It's a 5-game slate. So if you want to take your shots there, you can. He's not somebody that's like a high priority just based on the price tag and the range of outcomes there. I like what I don't know if you're familiar with this guy Malakar in chat, but he says that it's ant season. So I like what this guy Malakar is saying. I think he's making a lot of good points. I agree with him. It is ant season. Love seeing Ant at 8,700. He projects pretty well. I'm in to the Ant. Anything else you want to say?
So we're
about
saying rostering Ant is a picnic.
Yes, that's like beyond a dad joke, I think.
that's merging science and a pun in there.
Yeah,
that's next level. I'm waiting for the virtual tomatoes to be fired, Neil.
Right, they're coming, EMac. They are coming for you. All right, so yeah, just to put a bow on it, who are your favorite players from this game?
Let's see. I would say it's going to be Anthony Edwards is definitely number one. Brandon Ingram is 2. I like Rudy Gobert. I wrote him up for his double-double wager tonight. Let me off the top of my head, I think he was like minus 115 when that was posted, or minus 108. We had him at like minus 125. So again, it's not one of those bets that it's overly exciting, but it's got like almost a 5% ROI. He does have, I'm going from memory here, he has double doubles in 8 of his 11 games. I think he's averaging 14 points, 13 rebounds, sounds about right there. And he has done well against Jonas Valanciunas in the past. That is never a precursor for performance going forward, but he does have one game that was kind of a blowout, so he threw that one out. But 3 of the last 4 times they've played, he's definitely held serve. So I think Rudy Gobert is okay, but center's a tough position. That's usually where most of our value comes from. But I would say Rudy Gobert is on the short list till he gets knocked out by somebody else.
Okay. I would Najee Marshall, I feel like is like, the fact that he's getting 42% ownership is probably the reason that he's not making the list for you, because he is our, like, in terms of value, just raw point per dollar value, he is the top on the slate, but then he's getting 42% ownership and he's Najee Marshall. So obviously there's decent odds he doesn't get there. Cat, the number 3 value on the slate, 5.4x value, projected for 42 at 7,900, looks pretty good. So really, do you think is this the game you think you're going to get the most exposure to on the slate, EMac?
It probably is. The Memphis side is going to rival it just a little bit, but based upon what I did before the last run, and again, I'll do some more runs here when we get that 6:30 injury report. But this will probably be a well represented game for me.
Okay.
Did you know who's well represented in chat? We have all 3 of our producers in chat right now.
Has that ever happened before?
I don't believe
all
so.
3 producers in chat.
I don't believe
It's
so.
too much,
I'd
guys.
like to
It's too
think they're
much.
here to see me, but they could be here to see you because you've been on air all day, Neil.
They've had all day to
Literally
look at
all
me.
day.
If they want to see me, they've had their opportunities. This is their first chance to get to see EMac today, to get to see you the entire weekend, right? Were you on a show last night?
I was not. Was I? Oh
Okay.
no, I think I was. Yeah, I think I if I remember correctly, I covered for somebody.
Okay. I
Friday
have no
turns
idea.
into a real blur for me because I have to write multiple articles each day, both in NBA and in NFL, and then
Yeah.
summer showdown and so I'm just bouncing around. And then I've got to do the run sheets for these things. So it just feels like I'm perpetually doing something. So
Yeah.
if I'm in front of the
Busy.
camera or not, sometimes I get confused. But yes, I was on the show last night. Or was it Thursday? Maybe it was Thursday.
I don't know. I
truly
saw
have
you on
lost
Thursday.
track.
You were definitely on the Thursday night show because
Okay.
we said see you on Saturday when we crossed
Yeah,
paths on
so
Thursday.
only on Thursday. Last night
All
we
right.
watched, we had a nice dinner and we watched this show called Irrational.
Oh, fun. Haven't seen the show, but sounds like a nice little Friday night. All right. We'll move on to
me and
the
my
second
mom
game.
and my wife. It was glorious. Mom turns 80 tomorrow. So
Tomorrow.
if you guys are good, she may make an appearance on NFL Live before lock tomorrow after her birthday. We're calling it birthday dinner. We're eating at 4:00.
Oh,
and I'm perfectly fine with that.
I look forward to eating your to meeting your mom
Hey,
tomorrow night.
ooh,
Yeah,
phrasing.
that was not intentional. I look forward to meeting Mrs. EMac tomorrow night on her 80th birthday. All right, we'll move on to the second game of the slate. This does feel like a good between games. Feels like the right time to remind you guys, though, if you haven't already signed up for our tools, we have a discount going on right now because we just had a big Millie Maker win in NFL last week. We've seen Greg continue to absolutely crush using the stochastic sims in NBA. Took down another 35,000 last night. Yeah, okay. Chat just got to that part. The sims have been.
I was going. I shouldn't say it too loud because she's in the other room. I'm giving her the Apple computer I got from DK as part of the package. That's her gift. But I don't know,
Wow.
Neil. You're giving other types of love.
Yeah,
shall we say?
We've all got gifts for EMac's mom. Millie Maker, Millie. The promo code is Millie. We're gonna Jacob will put the link into chat for if you want 20% off any of our packages. You can get them right now. That's NBA or NFL, whatever package that you want. You can get it for 20% off. It's only good through Monday, so right now is a good time to take advantage of it. Lot of good slates coming up. Of course, if you want to do NFL, we've got the Thanksgiving slate coming up. So whichever slate you're playing, if you're just an NBA guy, you can use it for that as well. People have been crushing it. Greg, 100,000, 10,000, 35,000 off the top of my head. Some of his big wins already this year using the sim. So it's been working out great for people, both NBA and NFL. Link in the description of this video or in chat. Whichever package you want to choose, you can get for 20% off. All right. Second game of the slate, EMac, Miami at Chicago. Is Jimmy Butler's general soreness playing in this game? Going back to Chicago. Yes, he appears to be. All right, we're gonna get a Jimmy Butler game. I guess I can read your run sheet just to see who's out. Okay, we got Tyler Herro out for Miami. For Chicago, we have I don't understand what you're Terry B2B 3-4.
Terry is out there. Chicago's on a back-to-back. It's a 3-4. They play Miami again on Monday. They played 2 games against Orlando. These were all at home. Last night they lost to Orlando 103-97, to Orlando 103-97. Last night Levine played 41 minutes. DeMar DeRozan played 36, and Vucevic and White each played 30 off the bench. Those are my crib notes, Neil. I keep forgetting I have to share those with you. I should put a little more context around them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just didn't have time to review them before since I've been on shows all day. So it's the first time reading I should have figured out what this meant before trying to read it. But
by next week, you'll be a pro. You'll understand the shorthand.
Yeah. All right. We'll start with the start with the visitors. So start with the Miami side. Who do you like here?
So Bam Adebayo has been terrific. His salary just keeps ticking up. It's appropriate. He is at a career high. I want to say it's like 47 or 48 fantasy points per game, depending on if you're looking at DraftKings or FanDuel. But he's kind of getting priced out a little bit by all of the center options tonight because they are a better point per dollar plays. Jimmy Butler, solid as always. He has been picking his spots as he continues to do. these days, but this is a very winnable game for Miami, and they definitely need it. It's an island game for them, meaning they did not play yesterday. They are not playing tomorrow. So those are the two I like at the top. You can start to, we'll see what happens in about 10 minutes, but earlier I was getting a little bit of Kevin Love just on DraftKings, an adequate point per dollar play. I saw somebody was asking about where we thought Caleb Martin would be. We are projecting him for 14.2 minutes. They were asking if he would get to 20. I don't think so. If I remember correctly, he played a couple games, was out for a stretch. He has been back for one game. I don't think they're going to push him too much. 20 would probably be this. Like if his surprise minutes for me tonight would be 20, I would guess he's probably closer 15 or 16 tonight. But we don't know for sure. That's a little tough to be excited about. Oh, I'm sorry. I read his fantasy points. We have him for 14.2 minutes and 11, 12 fantasy points. So there's the point. This 12 fantasy points excites you at 4,100? Not really. And we want to remember that when we saw him just doing amazing things in the playoffs, Miami was missing a ton of people, and he moved into the starting lineup and was just playing insane minutes as they tightened that rotation up. Now they've got plenty of people to play at this point. So even though Hero is out, it's not moving the needle that much.
All right. So no, doesn't look like any priorities for you on Miami. I guess I'll ask you that.
No, I can truthfully say that.
Yeah. I mean, the best we see in terms of like point per dollar is Bam. He's a 5x point per dollar value, 45.5 fantasy points at 9,200. But yeah, nobody looks that phenomenal in the tools. What about Chicago?
So on the Chicago side, I thought for sure somebody would sit between DeMar DeRozan and Zach. It wouldn't shock me if we get late news that one of them doesn't feel right in warmups and ends up sitting. That is just a guess, but it is Saturday, and Saturday, you can't spell Saturday without shenanigans. And that's what happens in the NBA. Say the same thing about Sunday, but Saturday, odd things happen. Now, we've got the 7 o'clock game, and we have a full hour. We got 3 8 o'clock games, and we just got to wait a half hour for that last game. It's 97 minutes away from us really needing to know if Chicago's playing. Would it shock you, Neil, if one of the Chicago guys is out tonight? No, it really it wouldn't for me. But assuming that they're all in, yeah, we like Vucevic, but guess what? Yet another center at this point. If anybody sits, it would be Zach or DeRozan. I don't know that both of them sit, but one of them could. At this point, Chicago may have to the big three was already old when they got together. They're getting older now. The best value they can do is move Zach for something and DeRozan for, I don't know, a pick swap or something very minor at this point. But that's like the only assets they really have. I like Kobe White, I guess. We have Alec Caruso, who is a little bit dinged up. Plus the last couple of years, it feels like he gets in more foul trouble. I don't have his per 36 numbers in front of me, but it feels like he gets more foul issues. I think that's just a combination of several lower body injuries that are just impacting some of his mobility. So because he's always such a great perimeter defender, I think he's getting a few more ticky-tack fouls than he did, when he was with the Lakers, and a little bit more spry and, 4 injuries ago. So I think he's okay, but nothing great.
9 fouls in the last 47 minutes for Alex Caruso, to your point.
Yeah, it's not exciting. Now, assuming everybody's in, I have zero issue getting any of the big three in my lineup, but I'm not chasing them. If either one of DeRozan or Zach happens to be a late scratch, then Kobe White really does become interesting. But his increased responsibilities have corresponded to a price increase, so he's not the best deal. Plus, Miami's still okay on defense. Let's look and see where they are.
Miami is 11th in terms of defensive
11th,
rating.
Yeah, allowing 111 points per 100 possessions. So that's about league average.
And Chicago's 16th. This is our lowest scoring game, 213 is the over under in this one. The second lowest over under is that Timberwolves game at 220.5. So we're starting with the two lowest totals on the slate. And before we get to the largest total by far is coming up next.
The largest total I can ever remember seeing, Neil.
Is it really? Yeah, I was thinking that looks like an enormous total. I know the totals have come up in recent years, but even relative to recent years, that is massive. All right, who are your three favorite players from the Chicago Miami game?
I'm going to try to get Bam in a few lineups. I think I would be sad if I didn't have him around 10 or 15%. Again, it hurts that we don't have power forward eligibility for him anymore. We're done seeing that with, with Highsmith around and Love and just kind of the way they play. He truly is a center. Little less traditional than most, but turning into the more traditional kind for these days with basketball changing. So he would be my favorite. My second, I guess, would be Jimmy Butler. And then my third would probably be Kobe White, even if everybody plays.
Even if
there's other players I want to spend more money
on. Okay. All right, we'll move right along to the third game of the slate, which is that one that EMac is talking about. Dallas at Milwaukee has a 247.5 total. That is very, very high.
It went up since this morning. It was 245.5 when I checked 3 different sites this morning going, this can't be right. Oh, it was right.
That's wild. We have Kleba out for Dallas. We've got Crowder, Middleton, and Beauchamp out for Milwaukee. Tell me, what is your level of interest in? I'm assuming with this being the highest total you've ever seen in a game that you're going to have some interest here. Who do you have interest in? And I guess we will start with the Dallas side.
It gets very tricky, Neil, because everything goes through Luka, and what doesn't go through Luka goes through Kyrie Irving.
Yeah,
and then everybody else is an afterthought. Can Tim Hardaway Jr. still knock down threes at a ridiculous clip when he's feeling it? Yes, we just saw that a game or two ago when he had whatever it was, like 35 fantasy points. But I can't count on that. The front court is tough. I like their young center, but we already talked about tons of centers, right? Lively is pretty good. You've got Powell lurking, so they're sort of saying, yeah, one of them might get up to 26 minutes, but I don't know which one. Plus, they can always go without a center, right? So it makes it real tough. There's nobody else in the front court I'm really interested in. So it really comes down to Luka, who is at an absolute apex salary. And if you can get him in, you want to do that. But when I was running, I did this morning, so things have probably shifted a little bit. But this is what you want to do. Lock in Luka, run 50 lineups, see what you get. Lock in Antetokounmpo, run 50 lineups, see what you get. Take them both out, run 50 lineups. And this morning, those that with neither of them in, there were point per dollar plays that were making almost 10 fantasy points higher than putting both those guys in. And it was 5 or 6 higher than when you locked one of them in. Now, the floors aren't as good, right? But we're going for upside here. So it was just interesting with the way pricing is tonight. And these guys are appropriately priced. There's yes, I want to play Luka. And how are we going to do that? Right. And that's the secret, right? So there was some fun back and forth on Twitter with complaining about touts and blah, blah, blah. But the thing you got to remember, it's easy to say, oh, play Luka, play Antetokounmpo. How are you playing them both together and still having a good lineup? That's what makes it tricky. So where are my notes here? So Luka, he's averaging about 3 or 4 fantasy points less per game this season through 12 games than he did last year. He had one bad game 2 games ago where he played like 27 minutes in a blowout and had sub 20 fantasy points. If we just take that one game out, keep the other 11, his averages and everything are basically what they were last year. So the point being is he's found ways to keep his level up, and Kyrie is taking a little bit from everybody else. So he's looking okay and surviving next to Luka, but nobody else can put forth anything with consistency. It's wild. There's really nobody else that I like from these guys. If I get 1 or 2 other players, I'd be shocked if I get anybody above 10% outside of Doncic from this one. And I'd be shocked unless I force it if I got more than 25% Doncic.
I set it up to you like you're going to get a ton of this game because I saw the total and I just assumed like some of these players are going to pop. And then I look at my first unencumbered crunch, which I'm only playing 25 lineups tonight, but I ran it and I see that I have 4% Luka, 8% Kyrie, nobody else from Dallas. And then from Milwaukee, I have 4% Giannis, nobody else from Milwaukee in my first crunch. So yeah, just none of these guys, even with the extremely high total, all the players who are scoring a lot of fantasy points are also super expensive. So nobody actually jumps out as a great point per dollar play.
So like good touts were saying you should play these guys. I don't know how the hell you're going to play them.
Right. So... yeah. Play the best plays. Play all the good players. Good point. All right. Who are your three favorite from this game?
So Luka is going to be number one. We do know that Middleton is out, right? So that doesn't open up a ton, but it does make Bobby Portis get a little bit more. It helps Pat Connaughton get a little bit more, especially with Beauchamp out. Both those guys can score in different ways, but both those guys can score, which is sort of what is missing from Milwaukee. We like Damian Lillard, absolutely, but he's got to fight for his, and he's very points dependent in this. We've seen him put up phenomenal scores, and he absolutely could tonight. And basically four guys are going to be touching the ball tonight most of the time, and then we may get a little Portis, Brook Lopez, and one of the wings, I guess Beasley as well, for Milwaukee. But it's really the apex guys, and if you play two of those four in your lineups, you're really hamstrung everywhere else.
Yep, very much so.
How much older do you think Damian Lillard is than Jrue Holiday? Remember, they were traded for each other, right?
Damian Lillard than Jrue Holiday. I mean, Jrue, I believe, was drafted in like 2011, and Dame was drafted in, I want to say 2009. I'm not sure if those numbers are correct. Maybe Jrue in 2012, Dame in like 2011. Maybe. I'd say
same year,
1 year older.
He is 1 month younger.
1 month younger. Okay, you
pulled the hell out.
I knew you were doing a trick question on me, but I didn't realize it was gonna be younger.
I had in my mind that Jrue was a year. It was 16 months, 14 or 16 months was the number I had in my mind. Oops, I was wrong. But point being, they're both rather old. People forget all the time Jrue had when he was with Philly earlier in his career. But Lillard still great. I think he's a good fit for this team, but he's the reason why you're seeing Milwaukee just crashing down the defensive efficiency ratings, which kind of fun, hard to take advantage of tonight because we know the two Dallas Mavericks who are going to have the ball in their hands. But these are just little things to file away.
Okay. Baduni Abbey wants us to run the player compare tool with Ant versus Desmond Bane. So when you get a moment, maybe you can pull that up, Jacob. Oh, you got it pulled up already. Yeah, let's take a look at the player compare tool with Ant and Desmond Bane. Let me see. I think I need to pull up the YouTube. I'm hearing my voice through Jacob, I think. Oh yeah, I can see it on my screen now on my phone. We got this is God, I feel old. I feel so old right now. Looks like
I have it on the big screen over here, so
I should have just done that. That makes sense. All right. You want to read off what it says, EMac?
Yes. So their salaries, Bane is just $200 more. He also has a 3-point higher projection. His ownership is about 15% more. The rest of everything is pretty similar. Desmond Bane has a little different boom bust. That's because he is a little more shooting dependent than Edwards, who can do a few other things with more consistency. Bane can absolutely do everything out there, but he hasn't quite evened things out, sort of how Anthony Edwards has the last 2 years. So their optimal rate barely favors Bane, and Edwards actually has the better leverage. Barely. He's kind of neutral. Bane slightly overowned.
Nathan Joyce says Ant nuke game coming. That's why you're my guy, Nathan. Agreed. 100% Ant nuke game coming. All right. Should we you already named your three favorites. Let's move on to Memphis at San Antonio. The battle. No longer the battle of the Joneses. My high school classmates, Tyus and Trey Jones. I went to high school with both of those guys, right, EMac?
I did not.
Sadly, they're no longer both in this game. Starting with the Memphis side, who do you like on Memphis here, EMac?
All right, I'm loading our stuff here. I'm gonna isolate on Memphis. I was hoping we'd get that 6:30 news to move things around. We have not. So I think Desmond Bane is a great play today. I wrote him up in the free DFS building blocks article. We want to remember that Memphis is basically missing their entire starting lineup. Morant suspended. Adams out for the full year. He missed half of last season or more with that knee issue. Brandon Clark is not ready to play till probably right after the All-Star break with the ruptured Achilles. And then of active players that we've seen this year, Marcus Smart, Xavier Tillman, and Luke Kennard are all out. Wow. That is literally a full starting lineup. So you've got Desmond Bane, who is he's able to do a little bit of everything. And I think that is just key. So he is someone I would like to be above the field on. We saw from the player compare tool, the field's getting up there a little bit. I would like to get probably around 40% Bane. I think also from this, Jaren Jackson Jr. is very intriguing to me. He is coming in at I do not have the right filter on. He is coming in at just 16%. And then Bismack Biyombo recently rejoined the team. He has played, let's see, his last 5 games. Most recent was 23 minutes, but he played 36, 34, 30, and 26. He is basically playing all the minutes they need him to play, which is kind of fun. He is at 5,900. It's cresting up there, but he did have 2 consecutive double-doubles before he sort of dudded against the Lakers. So I think he is an intriguing option. And then Santi Aldama is the other guy I like. He popped off for 40 fantasy points. They need secondary scorers on this team right now. Bane can't do everything with all those other guys out. So he is the guy I liked. And then Jacob Gilyard is a little risky. Even though he started the last 3 games, he played 34, 24, 21 minutes. Now, the last one was a blowout, and he didn't play in the fourth quarter, but we could see Derrick Rose back. I do not want to play Derrick Rose, but he is, because he's missed the last 7 games with his creaky knees, but he could play 14 to 19 minutes, which probably will come at the expense of Gilyard. So that makes Gilyard a little less appealing as his price slightly has ticked up.
We did get news that Jordan Hawkins is starting tonight, so I think that we might need to touch back on that. But we can wait until we get a projections update to tell you how much that affects things, because that's obviously, you know, I'm pretty sure we did not have him starting previously. I could be wrong about that, but he hadn't started the past couple games, so I'm assuming we didn't have him in the starting lineup. We'll see if we get a projections update with Jordan Hawkins now starting. But just wanted to make note of that, because that might impact what people want to do before the first game of the slate. All right, how about the San Antonio side of this game?
So Keldon Johnson looks pretty solid. Vassell is out, so that gives him additional run there. Devontae Graham kind of got the short shrift last night. I don't think he even played last night. He played 17 minutes on the 14th. So I guess he didn't play last night. You've got Julian Champagny, who ended up in the starting lineup. He played 25 minutes. You had Malachi Branham, who also, he could start tonight. Those guys are kind of potentially flip-flopping. Branham actually played 28 minutes off the bench. I think whoever is starting probably is secure for 2 or 3 more minutes, but we just saw that didn't happen last night. So it's Popovich. We don't get popped anymore, but he'll change stuff around, not as much as his disciple Steve Kerr, but he still tinkers all the time with the back end of this rotation. And then the wild card is, as you mentioned, Trey Jones. So Jones hadn't played in 8 days. I was reading some old injury reports. I thought he was going to be out for a few more days. He's back and available, but he has played just about 24 to 26 minutes per game. So not very exciting. And that's even with quite a few players missing time. So this is sort of the, you get some minutes, you get some minutes, you get some minutes Spurs that we saw last year. Victor Wembanyama, I think, is a trap on DraftKings. 8,800 is a tall ask. He's a tall guy. Ooh, see what I did there? I was unintentional. I walked into it, Neil, but I owned it. Well done. I would rather play Zach Collins for $1,900 less, But the nod that Wembanyama gets is he is power forward eligible as well. So rounding it all out, Keldon Johnson probably my favorite play. I guess Zach Collins, but we have tons of centers. After that, I would have said Jeremy Sohan, but he is now just point guard eligible. He had like point guard, small forward or point guard, power forward eligibility. He really is a forward. They're just letting him play point guard because why not? But he takes a hit with Trey Jones back. And I guess Champagne is the dice roll guy. Oh, and Branham. But those guys are like the same player.
All right, we did get a projections update, EMac, on Jordan Hawkins. I just want to get that out there since we have 20 minutes to that game locks. Still doesn't look that great. He looks a little bit better. We now have Jordan Hawkins in for just under 30 minutes. He's 5,800. We have him projected for 26 fantasy points. So he looks playable at that level. We still have him at pretty low ownership. But to me, still not a priority. Maybe somebody will make it into a couple of my 25 lineups. What's your level of interest now in Jordan Hawkins now that we know he's starting?
Not a lot. If he comes into lineups, great. If he doesn't, I'm not going to go after him. I think it benefits him that he's starting. But he really needs to get to like 35 fantasy points before he's going to be a difference maker.
Okay. Should we talk about the final game of the evening? OKC at Golden State.
Absolutely.
232.5 total in this one. We have Draymond out, should be out longer. He should be out half the season, in my opinion. But yes, I am a Timberwolves fan. The mitten is
I hear
out.
You're a Rudy Gobert fan. You're the one person who roots for him.
I'm honestly not a huge Rudy Gobert fan. He's like of the Timberwolves starters, probably my least favorite, but I still got to cheer for all my Timberwolves. Curry out once again. Gary Payton, the mitten out. Looks like nobody out for OKC. So who do you like starting with the OKC side?
So Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is kind of interesting. He and Bane are sort of in that sweet spot. If we get unexpected value in one of these 8:00 games, people are going to go away from Bane and probably away from Shai and try to get more Luka and more Giannis, which makes sense. But that could see these guys, it could see their popularity go down. Gilgeous-Alexander
Curry is not out. I just want to correct everybody in chat pointed out that Curry is not out. So that was I maybe I'm misreading yours. Oh, it was questionable. You had him listed as questionable. I missed that. Apologies.
These are good notes.
That's my fault. That's my fault. Yeah, that's my bad. I misread EMac's notes to me. But yes, Curry is not out in this game. Sorry. Continue, EMac.
Yes. So Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in that bucket of Apex players that love to have him, love to play him. Kind of tough to get there. Adam called out a good point. He said if Carson Wallace, who looks like he's going to be available to play tonight, he said if he was out, he thought those minutes would go to Josh Giddey. And that was something that he wanted to make sure people knew. And that would help because Giddey has only played more than 27 minutes once in the last 6 games. That's not very many minutes. He gets by on efficiency, but his shot needs to be falling and he needs to be getting assists or rebounds. And that's tougher to do when you only have limited court time. So Giddey, I think, is a stretch on DK. Discount dandy Kenrich Williams. So he was out, missed about a month with a back issue. He has now played 2 games, 15 and 18 minutes. That's about where you're going to see him. You're going to see him get about 0.9 fantasy points per minute, but he is 3,700. He's kind of at small forward is very helpful. Sort of, I would think slots in instead of Alvarado as your cheap guy. I think he is going a little overlooked tonight. I don't think you need to go more than 10 or 12% on him, but I think he is the discount dandy that is not going to end up on people's teams that I think is just as good as the Flotsam and Jetsam that's floating around the sinking ships of the DFS lineups.
All right. How about the Golden State side of this game in which Steph Curry is playing? Want to reiterate that.
Yes. So Curry missed a few games. Was it sore knee or sore ankle? Sore something. So he hasn't played in 6 days, but he was coming off a 50 fantasy point game. He is Steph Curry. He is what, 36 now, I think. So or 35, no real spring chicken there, but he's okay when he is sinking his shots. Kevon Looney, yet another center here. What I've been blathering about for the whole time. Let's jump to exciting players. Kevon Looney.
Okay.
Could this be the breakout we've been waiting for? I don't know, but he did have 32 fantasy points in this same matchup previously. That is the first time he crested over 20 fantasy points in 6 games, but this is an okay matchup for him. I'm looking at his fouls. His fouls have actually come down pretty well this year. Of course, he did go 8 of 13 from the field and 4 of 5 from the line. That was helpful, but he did draw the start. I expect him to start again. I think that 30 fantasy points would be probably a lucky outcome, but at $1,000 less than Hawkins and different positions less than Hawkins, I would rather play Kuminga.
Okay. You like, what do we have Kuminga? We've got Kuminga at 5.5 value. So he is actually one of the better values on the entire slate for us. He's 4,900. We have Kuminga at 27 fantasy points. So yeah, our tools love Kuminga. Makes sense that you're going to have some interest there. Who are your top 3 plays from this Golden State OKC game?
It is going to, I can't say everybody. Holmgren's now center only. It's going to be Shea. It's going to be Saric. And it's going to be Kuminga.
All right.
I didn't say too many forwards in the other games. So
we made it through all of the games.
From here. Sorry.
Yeah. That does it for all of the games on the site. So we can continue. If anybody has any questions they want to ask, you can ask those questions. I think Jacob said that he has run the Sims already. I don't know if he's run it with all of the updated news. Okay, Jacob is in the middle of running the Sims, so we will take a look at the updated Sims. I'm running my own Sims right now as well to get those lineups in before lock.
Sam Van Dam has a super chat. He says, "What's up with Triple J's minutes lately?" So that's Jaren Jackson Jr. The last game was a blowout. So he played just 22 minutes, but they lost by like 25 points or something to the Lakers. The game prior to that, he played 29, which is kind of around his baseline outcome or his low end of his range outcome. And then against Utah, he only played 23 minutes. I don't remember what happened. Oh, no, that wasn't a blowout. I don't remember what happened in that game. But prior to that, he was playing 33 plus. That's what we're hoping for. I don't see anything in the last 3 games that precludes him from getting to that 33 plus tonight.
Okay.
So I think we should consider him for his standard baseline of 34 minutes and 40 fantasy points. I'm guessing that's what they have him projected for.
Okay. We also got a question from and appreciate you, Sam, for that question. Debuff
is what we have.
Debuff asks top 3 cash game plays for DraftKings. There's one that's very obvious to me, and that would be Jonathan Kuminga. He's 4,900. He's our top point per dollar play on the slate. So I think you just play Jonathan Kuminga. Makes too much sense to me. Do you have others that you want to throw in there, EMac?
I would put in Desmond Bane.
He's our 3rd best point per dollar play on the slate. I think that makes a lot of sense.
And I would probably go with Anthony Edwards. And the reason I'm doing that is if you go to Luka, I would love to get there, but you're giving up so much. These other guys are just as good point per dollar. They don't have that apex 70 fantasy point game unless everything's going to go right for them. But they're significantly better point per dollars plays by about 12%. So I would go with Bane. I think Kuminga's fine, and Anthony Edwards. Najee Marshall I think is okay, but now we got a whole bunch of forwards. But I guess you can play Bane at shooting guard. And
Marshall was he moved out of the starting lineup, or am I remembering that right? Was it Najee Marshall moved out?
I don't have that.
See. Pelicans lineup. He's not starting. Actually, I don't know if he was previously starting. Okay, we do have the Sims ready to go. So if we want to take a look at some of the top
one
lineups.
last thing I want to call out, and then I'm going to be quiet and let you run this with the Sims. With promo code Millie, that will get you 20% off any 1 week or 1 month package, NFL or NBA Sims. That ends on Monday. Act quickly. Matt Butler sent me a tweet. He said Dallas, Minnesota total is really high. It's 3.5 points shy of the Rockets and Pelicans in 2020, which finished at 250 points. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm going to quietly build some lineups, Neil, while you discuss the Sims.
Well, then let's take a look at the Sims that Jacob has up for us. I suppose I can pull it up on my big screen here too. I just need to make sure that I turn off the volume so I don't hear myself talking here. So give me 1 second to pull it up on my screen. See what the Sims are telling us. It says this video is unavailable. I'm going to refresh that. Okay, I see it now. All right, so our top lineup in the Sims currently, we got Dyson Daniels. Interesting. Dyson Daniels, Desmond Bain, Jamie Jacques, JJJ, Rudy Gobert, Mike Conley, Jonathan Kuminga, Bismack Biyombo. That is really interesting to see that as our top simulated ROI lineup, with Bismack Biyombo in there with Rudy Gobert as the two centers. Doesn't look like we're getting to more than a couple players, maybe 3 players from any team. We got 2 Timberwolves in there that I'm seeing right away. Anything shocking to you about this lineup, EMac, this top ROI lineup?
Other than Dyson Daniels, who I wasn't really thinking about, no. I'm
really
glad
thinking
to
about
see Bain in there. That makes me happy.
Yeah, makes sense. Desmond Bain in there, Jonathan Kuminga in there, not too surprising. Gobert, Conley, not surprising. Triple J, a lot of players that are not big surprise, but Dyson Daniels was definitely caught me by surprise a little bit. All right, second lineup, we've got Derrick Rose in there, who I know you were not really confident in Derrick Rose's minutes here, but he's currently in our second highest ROI lineup, along with Brandon Ingram, Ant, Cat, Gobert. We got those 3 Timberwolves there, Gilliard, Najee Marshall, and Jonathan Kuminga. So a lot of the cheap options that you would expect to be in a lot of the highest ROI lineups, the guys who were kind of chalky, Jonathan Kuminga, Najee Marshall, Jacob Gilliard, the chalkier kind of guys. But then we've also got all 3 of those Timberwolves, Cat, Ant, and Gobert, and Derrick Rose as a kind of low-owned piece here. Sort of interesting. Can we take a look at the top? If you favorite, it looks like you have the top 150 favorited. Can we see who we're getting to the most of, Jacob?
I want to hear where is Doncic and where is Gobert or Antetokounmpo?
I'm realizing that I need to hang out. There we go. Okay, I can get to live on the video. All right, so we are looking at our highest exposed players. And now that I'm watching on YouTube, I guess I'm behind. I'm looking at it with the chat now instead of being a little bit ahead. Can we see the highest? Scroll back up to the top to our highest exposed. Okay, Kuminga. Not a surprise they're getting to 76% Kuminga, 50% Najee Marshall. A little bit surprised we're still getting to 50% Najee Marshall. We moved his projection down slightly. Brandon Ingram, 50%. Yeah, looks pretty good. Cat, 47%. Conley, 45%. Just a great value. Jacob Gilliard, 41%. So not too many surprises among our highest exposures here. Would you agree with that, EMac?
I was asking, where did we end up with Doncic and Antetokounmpo?
Oh yeah, that is interesting.
I'm not hearing our apex guys.
We're not getting to our apex guys. There we go. Giannis at 11%. And then Luka, we haven't seen yet, right? He's still even lower.
No. Yeah.
There we go. 4% Luka. So just goes to show how hard it is to fit those guys into our lineups. I'm guessing we don't have any with both of them in there. I'd be pretty surprised. I know people in chat were talking about they were trying to do it earlier with both Giannis and Luka, which obviously that'd be a lot of fun to watch that game having both those guys in there, but just impossible to do with the salaries on this slate. You're not going to make.
But the lineups. Let me run one real quick. The lineups come out with about 240 or so fantasy points, 250. Which is about 12 less than what the optimal lineup is, which neither of them is in right now.
Yeah. As fun as it is, probably not worth it to do it when it just looks that much worse than all the other lineups that you can build, the top optimal lineups that you can build. So probably not something I'm going to be doing a ton of. I'm rerunning my crunches now.
I have an awful lot of Kuminga and Najee. Yikes.
How much is an awful lot?
Like 70%.
I think I'm going to get there with Kuminga. I think if I get there with Najee, I am going to decrease it a little bit. I don't think I feel comfortable with quite that much Najee. But I might,
he can back up. He can play everything from small forward down. He doesn't look for his own shot because he really doesn't have offense.
Right? Well, he's not starting, right?
But he's going to still play 28 plus minutes with between backing up Ingram and filling in for Zion and backing up Joe Val.
Okay. So what level are you comfortable with?
I'm terrified. 14 fantasy points incoming, Najee Marshall.
Oh, here's one for you, EMac. We just got another super chat. This one from RaceFan22 at 6,700 left on DK for the util spot. Who do you want for 6,700, EMac?
That is a great question. 100 shy of Gobert. I would put in Bobby Portis, who I have on 2% of my lineups.
Bobby Portis for 6,700. All right, let me look real quick. Oh yeah, you're just 100 away from Rudy Gobert, who would be the option if you had 100 more. But for 6,700, just looking, sorting by value, we have Jonas Valanciunas is 6,300. He'd be an option there. That's a really tough price point, to be honest. Just looking through 6,700. Portis we have projected for 30 fantasy points. We actually have JVal projected slightly better in terms of fantasy points. It's a tough spot though, but I think those two are kind of the answers. It's either Portis or Gobert. Portis or JVal. I think I'd go JVal. Sounds like EMac would go Gobert. So I'd say one of those two is going to be your best bet at that price point. All right, let me make sure I get my lineups in here. What are you ending up with now? Who are your highest exposed players right now, if you're willing to share? I don't know if you have anybody.
No, it's top Najee secret. And Kuminga.
Who's your third highest?
Bane.
I think I'm gonna boost down Najee a little bit. I just don't think I'm getting to 96% Najee currently, and I just don't want that much Najee. I'm happy to have some.
Now we do have an hour to tinker, and there could be additional news. So these could change.
Najee is in 2 minutes.
So shoot, he doesn't play any. I thought he played. He doesn't play for New Orleans anymore.
Doesn't that game happen right at lock? Isn't that the Timberwolves game right at lock?
Yeah, it is. Why did I think he was still playing for? The hell have I done?
Yeah.
Oh my God. He's playing.
You got to make sure you get.
He plays for New Orleans.
Yeah, which is right at lock.
Yeah. Sorry, I thought you were saying he plays for Minnesota, and I'm like, what the hell?
No, he's in the Minnesota game.
Yeah. I got you. Don't ever get old, Neil.
Don't ever get old. I am maybe about to miss lock. So this is the excitement going on right now. Is Neil is about to miss lock? I think. Hang on. We will see. You have a seconds timer on, EMac?
You've got about 38 seconds.
Why is it not copying? Oh, shoot. I think I just thought that I had downloaded my crunch and I did not. So I think I'm about to miss lock and not get any of my Timberwolves guys. And that is going to make me very sad. Oh, no. I thought I had copied it and I was ready to paste it, and it's giving me an error.
Oh,
so this is not looking good. Very hopefully everybody's very excited by my potential missing lock.
2, 1, 0.
Got it. Oh, 2 seconds left. Beautiful. I got it.
You literally were at 0.
That was not as much experience. Not as much experience doing it this way. This is why I don't usually do the Sims when I'm on live before lock. Usually I just go back to Fantasy Cruncher when I'm on live before lock. But got there. Whew, that was close, EMac, because I would have been missing out on all of my Timberwolves. That would have been so brutal for me to watch Ant go off for 70 fantasy points and know that I had none. Would have been just so sad for me.
You could have quickly run over to Vivid Picks and chosen a card that had players from that game, because they usually tick over just a little bit. They don't have to acknowledge that exact second lock.
Interesting. I didn't realize that.
Usually get about a 5-minute grace period on the various pick'em sites. But sometimes the games start earlier than we expect. We never quite know, but sometimes I've had to go that route before.
Yeah. Well, EMac, I know everybody in chat is very excited to meet Mrs. EMac tomorrow night on Live Before Lock.
Mama Mac.
Mama Mac, is that what we call her? Mama
Mac.
Is Mrs. EMac your wife?
Is my wife.
All right, I didn't know.
Not to
I
be
didn't know that.
confused with Mrs. McPherson, my mom, who was also my senior English teacher in high school.
Wait, you say that your mom was your senior English teacher?
Yes.
Oh, funny.
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense. I think you've told me some of the.
I did not call her Mrs. McPherson.
Even in class, did you call her mom when you raised your hand and had a question for her?
Or I wouldn't say. It was. I went to a very small school, and like 100 in my class in kindergarten and like 80 in my graduating class. Most of us had other classmates' parents as teachers the entire time. So it was not that big of a deal. She just happened to be one of the hardest teachers in the school, but also one of the most fair.
Yeah. So. I'm sure. No doubt. All right. Well, EMac and I will be back tomorrow night talking some NFL Live Before Lock for the Sunday Night Football game with my Vikings. And of course, that's both tonight and tomorrow night, EMac. I'm not going to be able to hang out after because I'm getting together with some of my cousins tonight, and then tomorrow night going out to a bar to watch that Vikings game. So not going to be able to hang out with EMac as much as I'd like after the shows. But we're past lock now, EMac. Any final words for the people?
No, but we've got on the front page, you've got the Week 11 NFL DK FanDuel building blocks. Plus, I broke down the 20 max lineup generator. I did a 20 max or a 20 lineup set with quarterback +1 plus a run back and contrarian. And the interesting thing, Neil, on both FanDuel and DraftKings, I got 45% Singletary. But it was not, he was able to be contrarian with all of the other things that were going on there. And none of these were too crazy of plays. Check that out. It's a good little thing to sort of read about. It'll change by tomorrow a little bit, depending on who's out, etc. But it's something that you want to look at. It gives you a good idea of lineup construction. Sneaky plays on FanDuel does look to be Geno Smith, as well as the Rams wide receivers of all things.
Interesting. Well, yeah.
I wasn't expecting that. As a Seahawks fan, I wasn't expecting that, but here we are. I'm
all about the Rams receivers. I'm not playing a lot of Geno currently, but yeah, check out EMac's building blocks on the site already, it sounds like. So that's something you have for the Week 11 main slate. Check that out. Thank you all very much for hanging out with us tonight. Good luck tonight.